Welcome to On Purpose Ministries, where we, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, help you, my brothers and sisters, find your purpose so you can live with purpose, walk in purpose, and do everything on purpose. I am your sister Rashida, and we welcome you. I'm about to come forward with this word and just giving me. You have to bear with me because I'm going over my notes. So I'll be reading from my notes. So as you can see by the title of this word, God is humbling the prodigals, and this does not just concern marriage. It may be the main subject, but that's not all this word is concerning and all that this word applies to. This is referring to those who have been running away from God for a long time. People you have stood for and prayed for their salvation, your children, your parents, siblings, family, friends, co-workers, spouse, and the list goes on. The Most High is causing a shift to take place on this earth and is calling his children home, calling them to come back into relationship with him, calling them to come back into covenant with him, calling them to return home to him, their first love. He is shaking up things in their life to the point where they will finally see just how much they truly need the Most High God. Not you or anybody else, but just how much they need God. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about saving souls and bringing the lost sheep back to the fold. God is humbling them and making it to the point where they won't be able to get anything they need spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally from anywhere else but him. They're going to have to face him. They won't be able to run or hide. They no longer will be able to run from what God has told them to do. Whatever it is that the Most High has told them to do and they refuse to do it, but instead chose to go on their own path, they will have no other choice but to do it. They won't have no other choice but to fix what they broke. They won't have any other choice but to confess what they have done. They won't have no other choice but to do what God has been telling them to do all along. They know what they're supposed to be doing, but still choose not to, and got themselves in a lot of trouble, got themselves caught up in some mess that only God can get them out of. He let them think they were getting away with it. But the whole time, he was just letting them dig themselves deeper into the pit they fell in because he knew already how this would end. Acts 17 verse 30. In the times of this ignorance, God winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. They will fall on their faces before the Most High, and they will have to apologize to everyone they hurt or wronged during their time of running, during their time of disobedience and rebellion. Your prayers, sacrifices, and fasting sustain them, but make no mistake, it is God and him alone who will bring them out. He just sent you to assist him in doing his will here on this earth, to bring his son or daughter home. But you didn't do this on your own, and everything God is doing or about to do in their life is not because of you. You covered them, yes, that is true, but only God can deliver them out of the belly of hell. So we have to make sure our hearts are pure. You don't want to get the big head and think you caused these things to happen because of your prayers, fastings, and sacrifices. That they should be praising you for standing for them. They should be showing their appreciation to you. They should be thanking you that they owe you for standing. No, they should be praising God for sending you to stand for them when they couldn't do it for themselves. Because if you want to be honest, if it had not been for the Most High telling you to do it, you would have been left. You would have been left them where they was at. You would have been walked away and let them be destroyed because of how they have treated you, how they have spoken to you. You would have been giving up on them. You only did it because God told you to, and he gave you the ability to stand. Had it not been for him equipping you for this fight, you alone in your flesh would have failed. So keep your hearts and intentions pure and understand who you did this for and why you did it. It's all about saving souls and assisting the Most High with building his kingdom on this earth. Everything else is just a bonus. So God is humbling the prodigals, and you want to make sure he don't end up humbling you too again in the process by how you respond to their return. You don't want to end up like the prodigal brother who was angry that everyone was that everyone celebrated his brother return when he thought he deserved to be celebrated like that for staying or standing with his father, because he never left. He was always there, so he feel like he never got that celebration. So he feel like he should have got them himself, and his brother didn't deserve that. Don't think you deserve more than they do just because you have stood all this time. You were once a prodigal too. How you think the Most High got you on this journey? He had to humble you too. Don't forget where he brought you from. None of us are perfect or worthy of the calling. Our righteousness are as filthy rags. Be humble. So the Father has been showing me the number 34 for a while. Everywhere I went, I saw the number 34 back to back. So I looked it up, and in the Hebrew Strong's Concordance, it means in the sense of want, especially in feeling, to be destitute, a beggar, needy, and a poor man. Destitute means without the basic necessities of life, not having, to be impoverished, deprived, broke, drained, empty, exhausted, depleted, and lacking. They will go from not wanting nothing to in need and want of everything. This can be spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. It can be in some of these areas or all of them. It's up to the Most High how he deals with the prodigals in your life. He's putting it to where they will first need him for all of those things, and he's going to arrange it to where they will have to come back to you to get it. The one he sent in the first place to help them, but they denied you because at the time they felt they didn't need your help. They didn't need you. Remain humble. Remember, it's about bringing God's children home, so you put your feelings to the side and allow God to deal with them. They didn't reject you, but the one who sent you. Luke 10, verse 16. He that heareth you, heareth me. And he that despises you, despises me. And he that despises me, despises him that sent me. You have to understand that as long as they are of the world, it's only so much that they will be able to understand. It's only so much that they will be able to comprehend. Because they're of the world. They can only receive what's of the world because that's what they love. It's not personal, but spiritual. John 15, 18 through 21. If the world hates you, know that it has hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world will love you as its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they kept my word, they will also keep yours. But all these things they will do to you on the account of my name, because they do not know him who sent me. So they didn't reject your offer, ignore your warnings, rebukes, or correction. They didn't reject your help. They did all of those things to the Father through you because he sent you to do it. He sent you to speak those things. They disobeyed his orders. Let's read the story of the prodigal son. And yes, we're reading from the Bible. I know many people hate to. They just want the prophetic words to make them feel good, and that's it. But I'm loading you with scriptures today. So let's go to Luke chapter 15, and we're going to read verses 11 through 32. Okay. And he said, a certain man had two sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portions of good that follow to me. And he divided unto them his living. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land, and he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. And he would fain have filled his belly with the husk that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him. And when he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough to spare, and I perish with hunger. I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and I'm no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring hither the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to be merry. Now his elder son was in the field. And as he came and drew nigh to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said unto him, thy brother is come, and thy father has killed the fatted calf, because he has received him safe and sound. He received him safe and sound. And he was angry and would not go in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him. And he answered and said to his father, Lo, these many years do I serve thee, neither transgress I at any of thy commandments. Neither transgress I at any time thy commandment. And yet thou never gavest me a kid, that I might make merry with my friends. But as soon as this thy son was come, which has devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed for him the fatted calf. And he said unto him, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. It was meet, meaning necessary, that we should make merry and be glad, for this thy brother was dead and is alive again, and was lost and is found. Listen, I don't know about anybody else, but when I read this, I was in tears. I had to read it a couple times, but I was in tears because I understood a father's love. I understand the father's love for his children. I understand the importance of the assignment. I saw God's love for his people, for his children. The joy he has when one who is lost returns and comes home. All he wants is for his children to come back to him. He is so patient because he doesn't want to have to do all of these things to get us to change. But sometimes we need that push in order to move things forward, in order to come back to our senses. The last thing God wants to do is punish us. But sometimes he just has to, because we won't listen any other way. So go back and read it for yourself a few times and meditate on it, and allow God to give you the revelation of the prodigal son and his love that he shown, that he called us to show also. So this prodigal was living a riotous lifestyle, which means to be out of control or out of order. He took all that his father had laid up in store for him and went to a land far away. Yeah. He left the presence of his father. All he had known, he left behind. He left the covering and protection of his father. He had everything he needed right there. Yet, it wasn't enough to keep him there. He still had to go and see if the grass was greener on the other side. So he goes into this far country and wasted everything his father had given him. All the knowledge that was given went straight out the door. The lessons and valuable teachings, he forgot about all of that. Even his father too. When he left his father's presence, he left everything behind there that he once had access to. See, once he left, he no longer benefited to being his father's son. He no longer benefit of being his father's son. He couldn't receive the benefits of being called by his father's name. So catch everything that I'm saying in the spirit. Once they left God's presence, all that they had while they were there, they abandoned that too. That's spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally. God is merciful, but he is also a jealous God. You're not going to eat the fruit that you didn't reap. You're not going to benefit or profit off of his name and have no connection with him. You're not going to pretend that you know him but serve the devil. You have to choose which side you are on. You have to pick a side, but it can't be both. You can't be lukewarm. You're not going to take everything he has given and use it for the kingdom of darkness. But think you're still going to receive the benefits of his kingdom. They chose to wander and no longer be called by his name. Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Once he left his father's house and lost all of his substance, nobody took any regard of him. They didn't care whose son he was. Everything he knew, he had forgot about it all and became a different person. He became unrecognizable. Everything about him changed. Just like the prodigals in your life. Everything you knew about them changed. You don't even recognize them anymore. The way they speak to you, the way they treat you, they would have never treated you like that before or spoke to you in the way that they have. The things they have gotten themselves into, you know that's not them. You know they don't usually be involved in those certain things and those activities. You don't know who this person is, but you just want your son back. You just want your daughter back. You just want your brother, your sister, your wife, or husband back. You just want your parents back. Whoever it is that you are standing for that's a prodigal, you just want them back. And that's exactly how the Father feels. He just wants his children back to come home. That's what it's all about. The prodigal knew the things he was tempted by. The things he was tempted to do. He couldn't do it in the presence of his father, so he had to flee. He wouldn't be able to get away with it there. This out of control lifestyle caused him to lose everything. Out of control means to be no longer possible to manage, to be disobedient. After he spent all that he had, pay attention to this. After he spent everything he had and he had nothing left, a famine arose in that land he was in, the land he wandered to. Think about this. Why did God allow him to spend all that he had before the famine came? Why did he wait until everything was gone to send the famine? Why didn't he do it before he spent everything to try to get him to change, to warn him so he could be prepared for the famine? It's because he needed to be humbled. Because if God didn't humble him and allow him to still have stuff while the famine was there, he would have still been caught up in his own way. He would have still been living a riotous lifestyle. That's why you're so frustrated. You think God isn't doing anything about your situation. You think all of your labor is in vain. That he just got you doing all of these fasts for nothing. Saying all of these prayers for nothing. Making all of these sacrifices for nothing. The seed has been planted, but some just take longer to grow, to yield forth its fruit. God has been sitting back this whole time, letting them think they got away with it. And letting them just go on about themselves and look like they enjoying life and everything. And now, he's making them pay for every decision that they have made. They didn't get away with anything. He waited until they used up everything they had and sent a famine to the land they wandered off to. So the prodigal was in need and want of all those things he no longer had access to. Those things he could no longer get on his own. The Most High humbled him, brought him back to his senses. He put it where he had no choice but to return home because he couldn't get it from nowhere else. The Father made sure of that. Either return home or starve. So the prodigal still tried to figure things out on his own by joining himself to a citizen of that country, which ended up putting him in the field to feed swine, which was a lower position than he had when he was in the presence of his father. He was treated like royalty. He had to see that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. We serve a patient God. He had to let them see just how good it wasn't on the other side. How else would they appreciate what they have? How else would they know just how good they have it? They had to see for themselves. He was starving and no man would feed him. He was looked down upon, counted as nobody, but he was not treated like this in the presence of his father. So when he saw nobody was willing to help him, that's when he came to himself and realized he had to return home. That's the only place that he could get fed spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Finally realizing everyone was willing to help when they thought he was somebody. But as soon as he fell and had nothing to his name, he had nothing to offer them, nothing that they could benefit from, they left. Now the same treatment he gave to the ones who were there, he's now receiving. He sees it doesn't feel good to be abandoned. The same way they treated you for the ones that's around them now, they have started to treat them the same. Now they can see how they made you and others feel, but most importantly, how they made God feel. So he sees that nobody is willing to help him. He decided it was best for him to return back home. He made up in his mind he was going to confess his faults, apologize, and accept whatever punishment came with it. He was even willing to accept a lower position that he previously had. He didn't expect to return home and receive the same benefits he threw away. He was willing to accept anything his father had to offer. Do you hear me? Anything his father had to offer, he was willing to accept. They will be grateful to God first and then to you for not giving up on them. They will confess what they have done. They will apologize and be willing to do whatever they got to do to make it right. They are willing to accept whatever you're willing to offer them. They will be grateful just to be home again and understand home is more than a physical location, but just in the presence of the Most High, just to be in good standings with him and the ones they wrong. They're not coming back expecting anything. They just want to make it right. This part really got me. Before the son reached the father already recognized him. Even though he was far off, he saw him coming. Even though the world had casted him away and marked him as a nobody, his father, the one he loved, recognized him in his unrecognizable state. Do you see the Father's love? He knows his children. He loves his children. We leave him, but he's always present. He's always watching over us. That father recognized his son. His father ran to him and embraced him. The way his father greeted him took him by surprise. He was coming back willing to serve in the field, but the father was moved with compassion towards him. He was moved with sympathy. Sympathy is the feeling of pity and sorrow for someone else's misfortune. To be kind and concerned. To care and have solace. To have understanding. Solace means to comfort or consolation in a time of distress or sadness. When his father greeted him, he made no mention of his wrongdoing. He didn't say, well, you did this, you the one love. You got yourself into this. If you had you listened to me, you would never been going through this. No, he made no mention of his wrongdoing. In fact, as the son was confessing, he interrupted him and told the servants, bring his son a robe, the best robe. He put shoes on his feet. He put a ring on his finger. Told him to get the best cap to prepare the meal. He wasn't thinking about what he did or didn't do. He was just happy to have his son home again. He was happy that he was found safe and unharmed. He probably didn't think he would ever see his son again. That's how many of you feel. It feels like you will never be back with your spouse again. It looks like they will never come home. And many of you have gave up hope that they will ever return again. It's easier not to believe in the promises that God has given you because you have nothing to be disappointed about. But faith requires strength that only God can give you. Many of you have stopped praying that the things change in your children, spouse, and family life. You no longer have faith that they will change. You no longer have faith that they will come back. God is restoring that faith today. He is comforting you today. He is confirming his word for you today. He's bringing them home. So have your heart prepared for their return. The father celebrated his son's return, and you better do the same when whatever prodigal you're standing for returns. Make no mention of no wrongs. Don't throw anything in their face, but embrace them with God's love. The same way God embraced you. They're not expecting that. Don't give them what they're expecting. Don't treat them the same way they did you. Don't do it. Their fall and God humbling them is not payback for what they did to you. Their fall and God humbling them is not payback for what they did to you. Because remember, they didn't do it to you. They did it to God. He sent you. Is God humbling them so they can come home to him and then return to you? Be careful with how you treat his sons and daughters. He's trusting you to do right. You are to embrace them, celebrate their return because Satan just lost one. Rejoice for the win of the kingdom of the Most High. So a lot of them will be humbled in many ways and brought to nothing. They will need you again. And you will help freely. Because freely God gives to you and freely you give to others. God is about to cause many of them to lose everything. That's their jobs, businesses, careers, homes, cars, possessions, relationships. They will be deprived of everything. The type of hit that they will take is based off the type of humbling that they need. And only the Most High decides that. Some it would be just physically, some spiritually, some mentally, and some emotionally. And the ones who's really prideful would get hit with everything all at once. Again, that's on God. how he chooses to humble them. You just do your part and have compassion on them when they return. This is a win for the kingdom of the Most High. He just wants his children back. And rejoice because you assisted him with doing it with your prayers, your fasting, and your sacrifices. So that's it for this word, family. They're coming back. So be prepared for their return. If you feel led to join the family, we welcome you. I love each and every one of you. And thank you for supporting the ministry. Have a blessed day. Shalom.